Okay. Good.
Okay. We'll now go into the open discussion of one non-bargaining unit contract. Declare we're in open session. Thank you. I don't have Carl to do that. Mike. Floor is still yours, Cheryl.
I'll take one.
You need one?
I
I was like, hey.
No, it's okay.
Just throw that. Close to the stairs.
This is for the position of administrative assistant to the superintendent and for the Board of Education. Recommended salary for next year is 3% over current base salary. Current base salary is $67,158, and with the 3%, it's the $69,172. It should be a decimal point, not a comma.
That makes a difference.
Now you need one more zero to make a difference.
I don't know, 6.9 mil is going to be bad too.
Excuse me. You've got somebody out in the hallway.
We're in
Open
open session.
session.
The door's up, even though
We're-
it's
We're in
Yeah,
open session.
we're in open session.
This is an open public meeting.
Okay. And, I just, if I can go through the litany of what these positions require, not only the knowledge of, a lot of law, considered special ed, when we have our, lost it, expulsions. In this position, it is required that they can write up do all the preparation, informing parents, gathering the information for attorneys, and making sure all that the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. This is a pretty responsible position that way. It's also helping the superintendent to remain focused on where I need to be, what I need to be doing. If I am absent and a crisis should occur, who to go to and how to guide them in order to handle the crisis. Because we have not had an assistant superintendent. This is also critical of just the whole organization for the board. You see what our packets look like every month, making sure that we have all the minutes, having all the...
If I could stop you for 1 second. All of that is evaluative of the person.
No,
And
I'm describing the position.
You haven't been. You've been describing a person. You keep saying she.
Oh, he.
And she
Okay.
does. And
This position, all right. My apologies.
The position is being represented by legal counsel.
Oh.
So we have to be very cautious that we are not evaluative of this person at all.
Okay, but as I I'm just giving you then some
You're
of the
giving a job
major
description,
job
but you
description.
have to make it
Okay.
unisex and not
Okay, so with the
what
job.
what the position requires, not what the person who holds the position knows.
Okay,
It's just, we strictly want to know what the position requires,
The
not
pos-
any special.
Okay, the position simply said requires somebody who is extremely, I can say who.
Who?
Requires the person to be extremely well organized, can manage, can meet deadlines, has some idea of, when in discussion with the superintendent, when something's put together, any questions or concerns of what could go wrong, definitely is an editor for the superintendent. Must remain confidential on all things that happen in the superintendent's office, and email and telephone calls. Is the first face to the to the district when someone calls to speak with the superintendent, or someone who comes to have a meeting with the superintendent, you know, to, if I'm running late, they need to make sure that the person, you know, is received, welcomed, and do they want anything? So it also have to be a hostess with the mostest. Has to have a real good history of procedures and protocol. Has to have experience of dealing with the protocol that a board has to follow. That helps immensely. Has to have a good idea of education law, let alone needs to know technology, all types of technology and all different, I mean, this person needs to know pretty much every program that we use within the district, whether it's PowerSchool, whether it's Excel, whether it's Word, you know. You have to be a very, this person really, and have to be, I'm going to say it, have to be a loyal dog to the superintendent, that the superintendent and his or her needs come first, because it's a lonely position.
Try being mayor.
Then you truly understand.
Yes.
That when you have the, you know.
Is this exempt or non-exempt position?
This is an exempt position. This can't be salary.
Okay. Because there is management.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you did the comparison, how do we fall against the other districts in the state of Connecticut for salary? For superintendent secretary?
Pretty much.
Are we at
Depends
the
on what
highest or are
district
we
you
at the
live in.
lowest?
No, we're in the middle.
We're in the middle?
We're good, we're good.
Okay. How much was paid in overtime last year to this position for?
$13,000. And that was for 28 expulsions and,
Well,
no,
I'm just-
I'm clarifying what it's for.
Yes,
Okay?
well-
It was 28 expulsions,
Hmm.
which could last anywhere from 2 hours or more. And it's also for 10 planned board meetings and several special board meetings, and also meetings for, during budget season, so.
Being the clerk of the board, obviously it's an overtime position. You said this can be exempt from that? So it's not, takes it out of the hourly category, so that there's no overtime paid? Or,
This position as assistant to the superintendent is exempt, meets the exemptions to be a salary position.
but not the clerk of the board part of the position?
The clerk of the board has, that's assigned by the board every year. That's not part of this job description, and it actually shouldn't even be in the title. That should be taken off.
Well, is it
But
open
it's-
to
But
other
it's
people?
been the same position.
But
It's,
the position is assistant to the superintendent. Clerk of the board is assigned by the board. That's not a,
okay, so then
it's
that's,
just not part of the job description, because, you know,
it's two
there used to
different
be more than
positions.
one assistant to the superintendent. They were not both clerks of the board.
Okay, would this then,
So-
should this be set up the way I set up the grant writer and manager?
No, this should just be assistant to the superintendent, and then as the
Separate.
board assigns a clerk or selects a clerk as outlined in the bylaws, then that duty would be dealt with separately. But as far as this position, it is just the position is assistant to the superintendent.
Okay.
By job description, that's what it is.
Because this salary listed is only the assistant to the superintendent
Correct,
portion.
correct.
Okay.
There is no salary for the clerk of the board.
It's strictly overtime.
It's an hourly
It's an
position.
hourly position.
Okay.
Yes?
A couple of questions. One is personal days. I'm looking at other contracts, and there are 2 personal days. This position has 3 personal days.
That's down. There was no limit on the number of personal days, and last year,
For this position,
correct,
Correct.
it was negotiated to 3 from unlimited.
on that yearly
last-
contract.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
like I'm looking at
Your point's well
other
taken, we
positions,
wanted
it's
to
2.
examine that, but if you're wondering why it's 3 and all the other are 2, All the others are 2.
And they were negotiated down as well, or we just negotiated, this one
No,
just?
I don't know where the 2 came from for the other positions.
2 is what all other employees and
2 is what teachers have, isn't it?
and also
And the non-certified
administrators
side.
and your
So why
superintendent.
is this position continuing with 3?
I think the goal was to get it to be any number.
Less than what it was originally. Okay, that's a concern of mine. And then the second concern of mine is the employee contribution monthly. It's at 10%. Just looking at one of our other contracts, it's 14% employee contribution, 10%. Teachers are 17%, non-certified. Dan?
It ranges.
Yeah, based on,
The pay, paraprofessionals are 9%.
9% for parents.
I don't, and it goes up to 40% for CAF workers.
I think the 10% is, in my mind, not acceptable. We're here to negotiate, and 10% for this position is, what's the superintendent's contribution?
17.
Yeah, so to go 10% is too low a contribution as far as I'm concerned. So those are my 2 concerns. The 3% I think is within the ballpark that the board has established for others, but
Okay, that is not a vested part of the contract,
What?
that help.
No.
so I think we need to look at 2%,
Insurance and salary are 100% negotiable every year.
and the personal does.
Yes.
So I'm concerned to bring the personal days down to 2 and get the employee contribution more in line with other people of, and this is a top position in this school district. And if our top person is 17, then I'm concerned that 10% is too low.
Yes,
I'm just reflecting on what you said before we went to executive session, that you received, or your board's attorney received correspondence from, and I know we're not talking about individuals, this is a position, from legal counsel for the employee whose contract is negotiated. I'm just wondering if it's prudent for the board to continue any discussion about the contract without that lawyer being present or without board counsel being present.
Board counsel said that we should proceed with the contract because it's an annual contract. It expires on August 31st. So other than retirement and vested benefits, there is nothing past August 31st. So we are breaking new ground.
Okay. And because this is open session and this position, and Deb's in the room, the board is not seeking any response from Deb on any of this?
No.
Okay.
The only other...
I mean, the only reason why we know, I mean, in this conversation, I'm not, if you exclude that name, I'm only talking about what's factually pertinent to that position. That's why I'm asking about the type of concepts I'm asking about. Right.
The only other thing legal counsel has requested be removed from the contract is the parity clause that is currently in the contract. The parity clause that's listed in the contract that matches this contract to other contracts in the district, and under parity law, that's an illegal statement, and they request that that be removed.
But if it's a legal matter, you can't have a contract in violation of the law, so whether we take it out physically or not, it still doesn't exist.
Right.
They don't recommend signing a contract with a known illegal statement in it that we've been advised by them to remove. So they have recommended that we not sign a contract knowing that it has illegal, something that was in there that you're trying to clean up, once it's been brought to your attention. When you're unclear of it, it's not a willful violation, but when it's been brought to your attention legally and you ignore it, then it's a willful. It's willful intent.
When I was looking over other contracts, I just had a question or concern, since this is
Which other contracts are you referring to?
I was looking at other contracts in the district, because we finally got the copy of,
Non-bargaining unit
yes,
contracts?
yeah. They were all 10%. The secretaries are all 10% contribution to their insurance.
And again.
But that's
And I
bargaining.
know, I know,
That's
it's,
bargaining.
I know, but I mean, when you,
And there again, I think
Similar.
that speaks to the parity clause.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if this contract was being matched up to.
Right, right.
Yeah, I'm not too hung up on the personal days, but I agree with Andrew as far as the contribution seems to be not in line.
I think the salary increase is too high.
What is that percentage?
It's 3. Okay.
You have a recommendation for what you would?
I don't believe that there should be an increase in this position this year.
What would that be, the salary?
67,158.
Do you have a record of overtime in this position for the last 3 years, let's say?
No, just 1.
this 1 year. I
What's
got
that?
She has 1 with her. 1 year.
There's only been 1 year?
No, she only has
That's all she
1
has
with
with
her.
her.
I'm just wondering how that's trending. Is it trending up, trending down?
But it
Well,
wouldn't be
the-
for this
the number
position.
of- Excuse me.
It
the-
wouldn't
That's
be
right.
for this position.
Right.
What's that?
It wouldn't
Wouldn't
be
be
for
for
this
this-
position.
The overtime is-
is for the Board of Ed clerk.
Right.
Okay.
That's all clerk position.
Okay, and how are we gonna deal with that as far as going forward in the future?
Well, I mean, we as a board select a board clerk,
Okay,
and we're currently paying $50 an hour for a board clerk because it's
Okay,
overtime.
board clerk, okay.
So I believe that we could get a board clerk for a lot more hours for a lot less hourly wage.
And would that be something that we can negotiate into this position, if so as to?
I think we want to keep them separate, right? To
Yeah,
allow
well,
us
yeah, because
flexibility.
if this is exempt, if this is a management position,
Yeah.
then there's no overtime that would go with the position.
Well, that's why I'm saying, would it be advisable to go back and look and say, adding the board's clerk into this position and then figuring out a salary based upon the additional duties of this position to the board's clerk?
I think it's required that you have, that they're 2 separate positions.
We'd have to change the bylaws if you wanted to do it.
Okay, I'm just, I don't,
Right, but what we have to address is that the superintendent does not have an assistant after the 31st of August. And we need to solidify that position. And then, as far as the board clerk, that's something we can take up at our September meeting, and we can vet any number of ideas.
okay,
I think they just think that's a conversation for another time.
okay, just.
Because we're only dealing with the assistant portion in this contract.
Except, that's why, how long has the board's clerk actually been the administrator, the assistant to the superintendent? At some point, you know, if it, what,
Long time.
you know, you start getting into that kind of gray area of,
Do you expect it?
yeah, you know, even though it's,
I think moving forward, the best thing is to separate these two, make sure that there's a clear delineation,
Right.
and this is a management position, and it meets the salary requirements. Your board clerk is a separate position, and is paid in a different, on an hourly rate basis.
Right.
So, yeah, I would agree. And to dovetail the chairman's comment about the increase, I will tell you, I think there's great consternation over the fact that there is this post-employment benefit of a 10%.
For 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. I think, quite honestly, politically and, public perception is, there is already a very rich contract for this position. So add another 3% increase, I think is going to add a little salt to the injury. Insult to the injury. Did it again.
You did, you stopped the bus. Any other discussion when we move into approval? Seeing none, we'll move into approval of the non-bargaining unit contracts.
Can you do that individually?
Yep. If I can figure out what I just did with them. There they are. Put them under my agenda. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the technical application facilitator?
So moved.
Second.
Chris, Jeremy, I got it right this time.
Excuse me.
Discussion.
Excuse me, what was that one?
This is the technical application facilitator.
Right, but. who
Chris
did-
made the motion,
Okay.
Jeremy made the second.
With the changes as discussed.
Yeah, to
Yes.
reflect the hourly
Correct, okay.
versus salary.
Should you state?
Yeah, that was the intent of my motion. With the amendment, I'll amend the motion to be specific about that. To reflect the changes to an hourly rate versus the salary that's listed.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. I need a motion to rescind the board's approval of the grant writer contract.
So moved.
Second.
Second, we'll give it to Ellen this time. Spreading the wealth. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Unanimous. I need a motion to accept the grant writer, grant manager contract as proposed by the superintendent. We'll give that one to Ellen. Second, Andrew.
I liked it the last time.
All right, discussion. Yes. Oh, you've got discussion?
No, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous. Need a motion for the approval of the technical facilitator contract as presented by the superintendent.
So moved.
Second.
Ellen, Chris. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. I need a motion for the approval of the accountant contract as proposed by the superintendent.
So moved.
Jeremy, second. Chris is busy. Discussion. All those in favor? Unanimous. Need a motion to accept the assistant to the superintendent contract proposed by the superintendent.
So moved.
Chris.
Second.
Jeremy. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? So we have 2 in favor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed. Items for the good of the order. Dan. John. Andrew. Ellen. Eleanor. Sorry.
Just, again, I'm sorry to be so process driven. In light of the fact that we have a position that, is not filled or contract as of the 31st, would the board entertain the thought of countering what was presented by the superintendent?
Can I comment? I would hope that we would get dialogue going between the superintendent and the administrative assistant to try to, being that they understand what the board's position is, and try and come back with something that would be more in tune with what the board, the entire board's desire is. I personally, taking away, I'll maybe make a mistake, but I would hope that Ms. Belutro, as of September 1st, is still an employee of the district, and hopefully we can work something out. So that's where I stand. I want it to be worked out. It's just, I have my concerns and the board has some other concerns, but I don't think that they're of such great distance that they can't be negotiated and worked on.
Helen? None? Jeremy? None? Chris?
None.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Dan, second. Helen, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstention?
I vote to approve, I just didn't.
Okay, it was unanimous. Okay.